What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/IDontWorkHereLady. This story's called, "This Isn't a Dog Daycare at All." A while back, I was working in an office that allowed dogs. It was an open floor plan, and since customers never came into the office, we kept the dogs' food and water bowls right by the front door just because it was the most convenient space and no one else would see them but us who worked there. Of the 6 of us who worked in the main office area, I was the only one who didn't have a dog, no pets policy at the apartment, and always felt horribly left out. To make matters worse, across the way was a doggy daycare. One day, a very frantic woman came in and she had an absolutely massive basset hound with her. Usually, the only people who came into the office were associates who had appointments with someone working there, but it was rare they brought their dogs. She ran up to me and said, "Do you work here?" And I said, "Yes, how can I help you?" And she said, "I wasn't sure if you took walk-ins, but I read online I could just drop them off. I tried to call, but no answer." I didn't know what she was talking about at that point, and I said, "Come again? Who did you call exactly?" Thinking if I could just saddle her off to whoever she came to see, I wouldn't have to decipher her problem. "Well, it doesn't matter now. Look, something urgent's come up and I really need to leave him here. Here's his food he likes and I'll be back in a few hours and—" At this point, I wasn't thinking of the doggy daycare. I thought maybe she was a friend of someone here. I said, well, alright, can I get your name please?" And she said her name and then asked if I needed her to sign anything, and I was so confused at this point I just said, "Why would I need you to sign something?" And she left almost immediately. So I took Otis, the dog, to the back and showed him to my coworkers, and no one knew the woman or dog. I was worried she wouldn't come back, but at the same time, my wish for an office dog had been granted, and Otis was supremely chill. All he did all day was lie around and drool onto his own ears. I just freshened him up every now and then, took him out every couple hours, and he was as happy as a clam on a big cushy dog bed we thankfully had an extra of. He just loved attention from anywhere he could get it. At the end of the day, the woman, thank God, came back. She said, "Thanks, you're a lifesaver. How was he?" And I said, "He was a champ," and was about to say, "But why is he here?" when she said, "That's a relief. Most kennels say he gets anxious around other dogs. I heard you operated at a much higher capacity. I was thrilled to see you had so few clients in the room at one time. So how much do I owe?" And that's when I realized she thought we were a dog daycare. Now, I probably should have corrected her, but I loved my day with the office dog, and I did want to get paid for supervising this strange dog all day. I just threw out the number that sounded fair and appropriate. "That'll be $20, I said. She replied, "Really?" in this very high tone, and I couldn't tell if I overshot or undershot, but she paid me and left. My coworkers were laughing hysterically when they realized what had happened, and we thought it would just be a good story for the future. But the next week, she came back. She said we were so much more affordable and less overcrowded than her other place that she was happy to use us. I was glad for the company, so I just took him. I didn't think there was any way she couldn't have at least some idea we weren't a dog daycare. The whole ordeal was so strange, I just figured, don't question a good thing. I was much younger and dumber then. Not long after, Otis started getting dropped off 2, sometimes even 3 or 4 days a week. I was in heaven. He was such a love, and he made fast friends with the delivery guys and visitors. One day we took our office Christmas card photo, and Otis was over that day, so we included him in a Santa hat. It was pretty great. But it turns out Otis's owner was friends with one of our clients who I guess happened to have the card out on her table or was kind enough to display it alongside her other holiday cards. Because one day, Otis's owner came in holding the card and walked up to me and said, "I can't believe I'm even asking this, but is that my dog in this photo? This isn't a dog daycare at all. This is just an office, isn't it?" She said it with a note of surprise, as though she was looking around and putting it all together for the first time. No coincidence that this was the first time she wasn't in some crazy rush either. She was like, "Then who are all these other dogs?" And I explained. I was terrified she was going to demand her money back, or worse, take some sort of legal action against us for misrepresenting ourselves as a dog care business, or complain to corporate. Instead, she basically said, "Why didn't you ever say anything?" And I just just explained we just really liked having Otis around. She stopped for a minute and seemed to be thinking and said, "Is that right?" And I said, "Yes." And I told the story of how I was the only one in the office without a dog, so I loved the company. She seemed a little flummoxed or hesitant, understandably, because the whole thing was so weird. She turned to my coworker and asked if I was telling the whole truth. I don't know why she thought my coworker, also a stranger to her, was any more trustworthy than me. But hey, strange times. Coworker backed me up, so she said, "Well, I wish you'd said something sooner. Could have saved me a lot of embarrassment with my friend back there. Alright, I have to get going. See you at 4 o'clock. And she left Otis. I couldn't believe it. I said, "So, he can stay?" And she replied, "Where else can I find someone to watch him one-on-one all day for $20? And off she went. Otis stayed my office dog until his family moved away. Luckily, right around the same time, I took a new job. With all this time sitting around doing nothing, I thought it was as good a time as any to tell that story. This story's called, "No, Really, School is Completely Closed." I'm on the janitorial team that was sanitizing our public school buildings during the cancellations last week. Monday, I arrived for my first day and I was tackling an auditorium. It was no secret that schools were closed. It was on the news, there were signs on the doors. I think the city even sent a text alert about it to anyone signed up for municipal notifications, and the school absolutely sent emails. But as I'm beginning to clean with my cart and my janitorial uniform, a woman comes in with 2 kids, 5 and 7-ish. I say, "Hi, I'm sorry, the school is closed for the rest of the..." And she cuts me off and says, Yeah, I know, but this is the daycare service, right?" "No." "What? No, I'm just a member of the cleaning crew." "Well, where's the daycare?" "There." "What? I don't think there is one. We're sanitizing every room today. You could go to the office and ask, but I didn't see anyone in there. It's really just us." "Oh, great, so you're in charge. I'll be back at 2:15, right?" "I'm not in charge of anything. You'll need to go to the office, or probably go home, actually. I don't think there's any kind of service." "What are you talking about? They wouldn't just cancel school without a daycare service for working parents. Where's your boss?" "My boss is also a janitor. Trust me, they cannot help you." Now, at this point, the kids had begun to run around the gym, which meant I'd have to re-sanitize whatever they touched. So I said, more firmly, "You need to go. I'm not supposed to let people in here during cleaning." At this point, I wasn't sure if she was messing with me or if she really didn't know. She seemed busy. She had a cell phone in one hand, no hands on the kids. Without looking up, she says, "Well, you should have cleaned before the kids started to arrive, shouldn't you?" I'm starting to wonder if I'm the crazy one at this part. There are no kids arriving. I'm cleaning. The school is closed. "I know the school is closed. That's why I'm leaving them in the daycare." And just like that, she was off. I was calling after her, "Hey, excuse me, lady, you cannot leave your kids in here." I didn't know what to do about it, so I took the kids to my boss and asked what we needed to do. The boss said, "So they just left these kids here? Why didn't you tell her the school was closed? Who doesn't know that by now?" I explained that I did tell her, and she either was so checked out she didn't understand or she chose to ignore me. So the boss said, "This is all way too risky. We can't keep an eye on them, and they're dangerous products, and who knows why she left them here. We don't need this problem. Better call whoever you call about kids with no one to watch them. Cops?" We also had one of the janitors trying to get a name and number off the kids, but they didn't really know. But we have a few undocumented immigrants on the crew and a couple others who would have just been nervous to have cops buzzing around the workplace, so we Googled it and ended up calling the Child Services Hotline. Ultimately, a social worker came, and with cops, but they didn't bother anyone though, just focused on the kids. The cops went through the kids' bags and found their last name on a school binder and found a number to call. They got the kid's father, who was irate. They had the conversation on speakerphone, so I caught bits and pieces. "What do you mean? They're where? Aren't schools closed?" And he was there within 10 minutes. I guess he called his wife for an explanation during that time because she arrived not too soon afterwards. The cops and social worker were lecturing them, and the woman was like, "I left them with the childcare worker in the drop-off area." And they reiterated there was no daycare and they had no idea what she was talking about. So to that point, I thought, okay, I guess she's just really, really dumb. Then the cops let them go with a warning about understanding where they're leaving their kids and with whom. But as they were leaving, the woman sneered at my boss. "Was it really such a big deal that you had to call the police?" So, now I wonder whether she was trying to pull a fast one on us, or if she was just that stupid. The worlds may never know, but I still laugh at the story. Now, I know it's a slippery slope, but honestly, I think at this point it might be worth requiring a license to have children. I know the last thing we need is government-regulated procreation, but this is just ridiculous. Come on, a kid's gonna get hurt eventually. You gotta... This story's called, "Today I Fudged Up by Running Around My Neighborhood in Socks, Screaming and Accosting Strangers." So this was last night around 10 p.m. My wife and I have jointly decided to operate under self-imposed isolation due to Modelo virus. So everybody's home and nobody goes anywhere, except to the park or playground down the street for sanity's sake, unless it's absolutely necessary. I'm in the bathroom doing the business, 16-year-old in her room fondling her portable communication device. Is that what they're calling it these days? Wife and 13-year-old daughter in my bedroom talking. Boys 5 and 3 in the living room watching Toy Story 62 for the 93rd time. So I finish my business and head down to the living room to get the boys into bed, except only 5 is there. So I ask 5 where 3 went. "Oh no." Okay, he must be with wife and 13. Stick my head in there and ask her. "I thought he was with you." Check the boys' room. Nope. Stick my head in 16's room. "Haven't seen him." Check the closets and bathrooms and basement and kitchen. Nothing. Now I'm getting nervous, so I check all the locks. Front door is locked. Sliding glass doors are locked, so that calms me. Until I realize that I had, by force of habit, locked the front door when I came to get the boys for bed and couldn't remember whether it was already locked or not when I did. So I ask 5 again, where did 3 go? Get another nonchalant but slightly annoyed, "Oh no." So I pause the movie, try to conceal my panic as best I can, and ask him to think about which way he went. I think he went outside." I lost my marbles. To make a long story short, I ran out in socks, screaming 3's name from one end of the block to the other, ran to the park screaming his name, scaring the crap out of the teenagers hanging out there. Park is a couple of acres at least, baseball field, tennis court, trails, etc. Asked them to be on the lookout for a 3-year-old boy in white Batman boxers. Warm day today in mid-Atlantic US. "We got you." My wife did the same, but screaming in the woods behind the house. Ran back home, grabbed my keys, wife calls police, and I end up driving around my neighborhood stopping on pretty much every block to scream 3's name, accosting joggers and teens out and about, running red lights, the whole 9. I literally was not even in my own body to be able to control myself. So my route takes me close to home again, and I decide to check my block again. My wife is out front crying and babbling into the phone, talking to emergency. I stop for a second and give her a big hug and run around back so I can search the woods behind the house. It's worth mentioning that we live in a sparsely populated area, and there have been sightings of medium-sized predators, bobcats, coyotes, etc., over the past few years. The kinds of animals who wouldn't normally attack adult humans but might find a preschooler to be about the right size. So here I am, thinking the worst, frantic to find my boy. So I'm searching through the woods in my socks for the next 5 minutes, and 16 has joined me, using her phone flashlight to look around another section. I don't see anything before reaching the impassable thicket, so I turn around and bark at her to look in the neighbor's yard and then search every corner of the house. I get back in the car and return to driving around like a madman, and then my phone rings. It's my wife. I'm too scared to answer and too scared not to. I fumble the phone into the crack of the seat, almost hit a mailbox trying to retrieve it. "Tell me you found him." "We did. He was in the bed sleeping." And before I could even feel relief, I felt like the biggest idiot. Like, I've been embarrassed before, but I saw a few neighbors on their front lawns as I made my drive of shame back to my house, and I couldn't even bear to look at them or tell them that we'd found them. 3. Who has never, not once, in his entire approximately 1400 days on planet Earth, gone to bed willingly, had gone to bed by himself and was sound asleep the whole time. And I looked right at him before I went on my wild romp through the neighborhood. Just take me out back and shoot me, please. So anyway, get back home, wife and I hug it out, teens and wife start chatting about the whole ordeal, I crumple into a ball on the couch to get myself together, and then there's a knock on the door. It's an officer responding to the call. My wife was on the phone with emergency when they found him, so the officer already knew, but he was obliged to knock and make sure. And there I was, just barely holding it together, trying to tell him my son was home all along. Anyway, now I'm tending to the cuts and bruises on my feet that I didn't even feel when they happened, which is probably a good thing because it can be my excuse to hide the fact that I'm too embarrassed to walk out my front door today. Edit: I put a post on my local Nextdoor app apologizing for the disturbance, and they all, including the late night jogger herself, responded pretty much like you all have, to say that I have nothing to apologize for. So thanks everybody for that. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.